village nestled deep within the forest, there lived a small girl named Emily. She was an orphan, taken in by the kind-hearted widow, Mrs. Thompson. But Emily was not like other children. She possessed an eerie fascination with the old abandoned mansion at the edge of the village. Legend had it that the mansion was cursed, and those who dared to enter never returned. Emily, however, felt drawn to its decaying walls and whispered secrets. One moonless night, driven by an inexplicable force, she crept out of her bed and made her way to the mansion. As she stepped inside, the air grew colder, and shadows danced along the walls. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, but she pressed on, her curiosity overpowering her fear. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the darkness, beckoning her deeper into the mansion's depths. Lost in a labyrinth of corridors, Emily stumbled upon a hidden room adorned with ancient artifacts and strange symbols. Unnerved but unable to resist, she approached a dusty mirror at the center of the room. As she gazed into its murky depths, her reflection began to twist and contort, morphing into a grotesque visage of pure horror. Terrified, Emily tried to flee, but the mansion seemed to shift around her, trapping her in its malevolent grasp. Desperate and alone, she realized too late the true nature of the curse that haunted the mansion. It hungered for souls, and she had wandered willingly into its clutches. From that night on, Emily's cries could be heard echoing through the village, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within the abandoned mansion and the fate that awaited those who dared to trespass upon its cursed grounds. Years passed, and the villagers whispered in hushed tones about the tragedy of Emily's disappearance. Mrs. Thompson, now aged and frail, still mourned the loss of the child she had raised as her own. But one stormy night, a stranger arrived in the village, claiming to be an investigator searching for the truth behind the legends of the cursed mansion. Driven by a morbid curiosity and a desire to uncover the secrets of the past, the investigator ventured into the heart of the forest, determined to unravel the mystery of Emily's fate. As he approached the dilapidated mansion, the wind howled through the trees, and the air grew heavy with the weight of centuries-old secrets inside the mansion. The investigator's footsteps echoed off the walls, each creaking floorboard a reminder of the darkness that lurked within. Ignoring the whispers of doubt that plagued his mind, he pressed on, guided by the flickering light of his lantern. Deep within the bowels of the mansion, he stumbled upon the hidden room where Emily had vanished all those years ago. As he examined the dusty artifacts and faded symbols, a sense of unease washed over him, and he knew he was treading on dangerous ground. But it was too late to turn back now. With trembling hands, he approached the ancient mirror at the center of the room, its surface warped and twisted with age. As he peered into its depths, a chilling realization dawned upon him. Emily's reflection stared back at him, her eyes filled with an otherworldly hunger. With a cry of horror, the investigator tried to flee, but the mansion seemed to come alive around him, its walls shifting and contorting to trap him within its grasp. And as the darkness closed in, he knew that he, too, had become another victim of the cursed mansion's insatiable thirst for souls. In the village, rumors swirled once again as the investigator's disappearance added another chapter to the dark legend of the cursed mansion. Mrs. Thompson, now the last remaining resident who remembered Emily's tragic tale, couldn't shake the feeling that the answers she sought lay buried within the depths of the old mansion. Despite her advanced age, Mrs. Thompson resolved to confront the darkness that had haunted her for so long. With a mixture of determination and trepidation, she embarked on a journey to uncover the truth behind the cursed cursed mansion and the fate of those who dared to enter its forsaken halls, armed with nothing but a flickering lantern and the memories of Emily's laughter. Mrs. Thompson ventured into the heart of the forest, guided by an unshakable resolve to bring closure to the mystery that had plagued her for decades. As she stepped over the threshold of the mansion, the air grew thick with the weight of centuries-old secrets, and the shadows seemed to dance with malevolent intent. But Mrs. Thompson pressed on, driven by a sense of duty to the child she had loved as her own. Deep within the mansion's labyrinthine corridors, she discovered the hidden room where Emily had vanished so many years ago. With trembling hands, she reached out to touch the dusty artifacts and faded symbols, her heart heavy with sorrow and regret. And then, as she gazed into the murky depths of the ancient mirror, Mrs. Thompson saw something that made her blood run cold, her own reflection, twisted and contorted, staring back at her with empty eyes. With a cry of despair, Mrs. Thompson realized the truth. The curse of the mansion was not confined to its crumbling walls. It had seeped into her very soul, consuming her with the same insatiable hunger that had claimed Emily and the countless others who had dared to defy its dark power. As the darkness closed in around her, Mrs. Thompson knew that she, too, would become another tragic victim of the cursed mansion's relentless grasp, forever lost to the shadows that lurked within its haunted halls. In the depths of the cursed mansion, Mrs. Thompson's resolve wavered as she felt the oppressive weight of the darkness closing in around her. But even in the face of unimaginable horror, she refused to surrender to the same fate that had befallen Emily and the others. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Mrs. Thompson fought against the suffocating grip of the curse, her mind racing for a way to break free from its insidious hold. But the mansion seemed to feed on her fear, twisting her thoughts and sapping her willpower with each passing moment. Desperate and alone, Mrs. Thompson clung to the flickering light of her lantern, the only beacon of hope in the endless sea of darkness that surrounded her. But even that feeble light could not hold back the encroaching shadows, and as they closed in around her, she knew that her time was running out. In a final act of defiance, Mrs. Thompson hurled her lantern at the cursed mirror, shattering its warped surface and unleashing a blinding explosion of light. For a brief moment, the darkness recoiled, and Mrs. Thompson dared to hope that she had finally broken free from the curse's grasp. But her victory was short-lived. As the echoes of the shattered mirror faded into silence, the darkness surged forth with renewed fury, engulfing Mrs. Thompson in its icy embrace. And in that moment of utter despair, she realized the horrifying truth. There was no escape from the cursed mansion's clutches. With a heart-wrenching scream, Mrs. Thompson's cries echoed through the empty halls, a chilling testament to the tragic fate that awaited all who dared to defy the darkness that lurked within. And as the last flicker of her light was extinguished, the cursed mansion claimed yet another victim, its insatiable hunger forever unsated.